So the details were we bought it out of foreclosure, basically from a bank. We bought the whole distillery, all the stills, and we bought 100 plus barrels of spirits for $260,000, which was a really good deal because the market value of all this equipment was close to 2 million. So if you wanted to start your own distillery with nothing, it would cost about $2 million to get this operation up and going. We bought it for 260.
Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. Welcome back to another episode of The Hunt for Incredible. On today's episode, we have my man, Calvin Blankenship. So Calvin, his background, he was 5 years in the Navy. He ended up joining a multifamily real estate syndication firm. And then he dove into a private equity startup, which ended up collapsing. And he said, this is for the birds. Rather than being part of something that goes from 0 to 1, I'm going to buy something and then build it and scale it up. So he ended up founding a company called Valor after deciding to go all in on himself and taking that risk. And he went ahead and purchased a distillery. And the model around Valor is really interesting. And I'll let Calvin dive into it. But effectively, he is acquiring businesses, training people who were formerly in the military on how to operate them, and then has a purchase option for them down the road. And his goal is to go full throttle and build $100 million company. He's going to buckle down over the next 5 years and scale this thing quickly. His goal is to buy a business a quarter, which is incredibly aggressive, but he has the right partners and mindset and developing the systems to do that. So I'm super stoked to dive in. Calvin, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So, and also forgot to mention, you're currently training for an Ironman, which I've only done a half Ironman and it absolutely kicked my ass. So I'm excited to hear how it goes for you to do the full.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. It's gonna be a pain fest for 12 to 14 hours, but it'll be worth it.
Oh, yeah, dude, those are the best experiences. I'm such a big fan of long-term mental and physical suffering. Like, I feel like once you hit those walls that you have to push through and you don't think you can push through it, but then you push through it anyway, you have breakthroughs. I found across the board. Like, I did an ultra marathon in East Texas. It was through the hill country. It's one of the most dramatic elevation changes in the States near Tyler, Texas. And those super long, tall vertical trees, everything looks the same and you're just winding through for 8-9 hours straight. Actually, no, I think I did that one in 10.5 hours. It's just no headphones, no nothing. It's like pure pain and suffering in all the best ways for those breakthroughs. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to have you back on right afterwards and say, Calvin, what'd you come back with? What'd you learn?
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So without further ado, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this acquisition. So a lot of people run into the challenge of the gap. So maybe they're in a W-2, they've dreamed about buying a business, buying real estate, whatever it is. And they look at it and it seems like such a big mountain with such a large gap in between where they are and where they want to go. What was your experience when you were sitting at that crevice and you knew that you had to make the leap? What pushed you over it?
Yeah, I mean, I had gotten out of the military. I was in corporate for almost 2 years and it just wasn't working out. I was missing the same culture, the style, the leadership, and the brotherhood that I had in the military. And if I knew I wasn't going to find that in corporate, I was going to have to create it. So I was like, I'm going to put all my chips on the table. I'm going to create something that solves the problem of that I went through when I got out of the military, but also a way to provide financial freedom for other veterans. So at that point, I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do everything in my power to make this work. And guess what? The worst case scenario is everything fails and I get the same job that I was going to get anyways. Man, the downside was pretty much zero and the upside was everything. So I went all in.
Dude, that is such a healthy perspective. The worst thing that can happen is I end up exactly where I am right now. It's wild. Most people, it's like they have and this is natural, but a fear response to failure, but they don't actually break down what the outcome of that failure is or what the root of their fear is from. And if they actually dug deep enough, they'd realize there's nothing to be afraid of. Like literally like worst thing that can happen to you is you might have to call up some friends and family and say, hey, I have nothing. Can I sleep on your couch? And most people, they have somebody who will let them sleep on the couch. I mean, even if you don't have those people, you can go to a local church and say, I literally have nowhere to stay. Can I sleep on the chairs overnight and then while I get back on my feet. Like there are people out there, and that is not that bad of a scenario when you consider the upside of your dreams being fulfilled in this one life that we live.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if you end up going through that and ending up at that point, I guarantee you would say that it was worth it because you learned and you grew as a person. And then that next venture is going to be the payoff that you were looking for anyway.
Uh,
So what is the real downside?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, one of the hardest times of my entire life was my wife was sick. She was getting sicker and sicker every day to the point where she was bedridden. Nobody that we took her to like 6 different doctors. Nobody knew what it was. My dad was having heart failure, so he needed a heart transplant. They thought he was going to go. My mom ended up getting a form of liver cancer that only has a 20% survival rate. And we were in the middle of a real estate transaction that we were risking quite a bit to get to close on. And all of that happened within a 4-month period. By far the most stressful. And that was while I was training for the ultra. So like literally like no time, full physical, mental stress. And the nuggets of wisdom that I pulled from that experience, the questions that I was forced to ask myself were by far some of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned in my entire life. And I consider myself wildly blessed for getting to go through those experiences because it's like pressure either makes diamonds or it bursts pipes. And when you face that pressure, you have the option. It's your response and your disposition towards that pressure that determines if you're going to be a burst pipe or if you're going to be a diamond. So to get the most out of life, you have to, it's not just an option. Like you have to put yourself under that severe strain and pressure because your dreams are the diamonds and you're not going to make it without that pressure.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the magic is understanding that from where you are now to the dream life that you want, the best lessons are going to be learned in the hard parts that you're avoiding right now. So you just need to just accept that there is going to be hard parts either way, but those hard parts are going to teach you the best lessons. You're going to grow the most on your way to the dream life versus just staying complacent in where you are. That cost is way more not as beneficial as going the other way.
Yeah, one of my favorite expressions is the best views are at the peaks, but the life and the growth and the vegetation is in the valleys. So you have to alternate. You have to
Hmm.
alternate going back and forth. If you're on the peaks too often, then you're not going to grow. And if you're in the depths too much, then you're not going to see the views. So awesome. Okay. So you sat there and you said, fuck this. I'm going to go for it. I'm going all in. What were your next steps to bridge that gap and go for what you were going for?
I would say the first step that I said was, okay, here's the problem that I ran through when I got out of the military, and here's the solution that I want out of this dream life, this company. And then I started writing down what the perfect company, what the perfect vision is, what the culture, the team, the money, what everything looked like. And I was like, I'm going to map this out. This is the end road. This is the top. This is the peak of the mountain. This is what the dream life looks like. And I know it's not going to look like that when I get there. And I don't know how to get there, but this is the first step to curate, painting the picture of what it's going to look like.
Okay. So you defined your vivid vision and you said, this is what I'm going for. How did you make your first step towards that?
The first step was how do I take that dream vision and break it down into where I'm at right now. So I kind of walked my goal backwards. Like if I want this dream life, this dream company, and right now I have nothing, well, what are the steps I need to take in the gap in between to fill those things? And the first thing was the business plan. Like actually filling in, okay, what is the reality of what I want versus like what I have now and what I need to get there. And a good business plan will show you exactly where the faults are going to be, where the hiccups are going to be, where the things that are going to go right and the things that are going to go wrong and the things that you need to plan.
And so what was that? What was that initial outline for you, that first pass at it?
I mean, it took me a long time. So I had from a friend, a 50-page blank business plan that was a template. And it just basically asked you all the questions, the prompts, every side of a business, the marketing, the competition, the financials, the operations team. So the prompt gets you to really think about, okay, if you really want to make something like a dream company, these are the things that you need to think about that you're actually going to have to implement to get there.
Okay. So it was more like a lean canvas, except like a long form where you're actually filling in the gaps. Was this a business idea that you had that you were building it out for, or was it more of like a guidance on what type of business you were looking for?
Well, so think of it like this. So I had basically a frame of my dream house, right? I'm like, okay, here's the frame of like kind of what I want to do. And filling in the business plan is basically putting in the insulation and the drywall, and then all the other gaps that you don't have in the house are things that you will need to work towards. Like, okay, I don't have any flooring, I don't have any countertops or cabinets. And then you get to see, okay, here's what I do have, the frames of a good business plan, a good idea. And then like the everything else that you need to fill in is like how you're going to get the things you're going to have to get through on the way to building that final finished dream house.
And so what was that business plan, Vets and Valor?
Yes, that was Vets and Valor was the first big business plan.
Okay, so explain what is Vets and Valor?
So Vets and Valor is a company that what we do is we help transitioning service members and veterans. We help them get out of the military. So we help you with your disability claims, how to use your VA home loan, resources that you could, as far as like therapy, local VA resources, because getting out of the military is very hard and it's going to be tough. And most people, veterans that I've talked to, they go through a dark time period in transition because they are missing the culture and the brotherhood that they're leaving, and they're not going to get that in corporate America. So how can I help them bridge that gap? And at the same time, we put them through a training program, a business training program, to teach them how to become a business operator and owner. And then once they graduate that program and we feel they're confident enough to be able to run a business, we find a business based off of their strengths and their skill sets, and we buy a company that they run and work towards ownership. And then eventually, them running the business, they will buy the business back from us and they will own it, and they will create their own financial freedom for themselves and their family. And that's kind of what we've done with our first deal so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then how did you think about approaching this and validating your idea in practice? So you built out the business plan, you filled in all the gaps. Was your first step to find someone who had done it before? Was it to simply execute based on the outline of the business plan? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean that is the reality and the hard part about being an entrepreneur is like not everyone has the answers. I looked high and low and searched for companies or businesses that existed with the same kind of business model that I wanted to do, and I didn't really find one. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to wing it for the first one. So I came up with a rough outline of what the training program was going to look like. Okay, we're going to do it's going to be a 16-week program. We're going to do this subject this week and just all the way through. And I said, okay. And then I marketed to people that were looking for a better life, veterans that wanted to be in the entrepreneurship space, that wanted to run a business. I posted on Facebook. I did a couple of rounds of interviews. I found someone that I really liked and put them through a couple more rounds of interviews. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through this training program. We're going to teach you how to run and operate a business, and then we're going to go buy one for you. And it was just a lot of it was finding out along the way how to do things, because when you do things for the first time that no one's ever really done before, not to say that no one has ran a business before, but the way that my model is that I couldn't find anywhere else, I just had to basically wing it and kind of put the drywall and the insulation in as I went.
Yeah. So how did you lay out what this course would look like before you had purchased a business yourself?
Relying on good business partnerships and people that had been there and done it before. So I don't know. I don't claim to have started or run a business myself before. So I went to someone that did and say, hey, here's my ideas. Can you validate this or plug holes in it, or fill in the gaps to where a solid business plan or a solid business training program would look like?
Dude, I love it. People are the answer. People are always the answer. No matter what you're trying to do, there's someone who has already done that thing, or at least something close enough to that thing that once you bring them on board, you can tackle it with them. Like this hotel, I always bring this example up on the podcast. Last year we bought a hotel, and the way that we bought the hotel was my partner and I had a couple partners, two of them. We had never bought a hotel before, but we were aggressively looking for hotels, and we would underwrite deals, and deals that looked like they made sense. We'd bring it to experts in the space, and then they'd give us feedback. They'd turn down the deals. We were really trying to sell them on the deal, say, hey, you want to come in on this deal with us? And when they'd say no, we'd log why they said no. We'd refine our search criteria and then continue searching for deals. And then eventually we refined what types of deals we were looking for, what pitfalls we were avoiding based on the knowledge that we gleaned from the experts, until we found a deal that was good enough to bring the experts on board, which dramatically de-risks the deal. It makes it easier to get lending on the deal. It makes it easier to raise capital because you have somebody who's done it multiple times already. Hey, quick pause here. If you're getting value from these conversations, it would mean the world to me if you took 10 seconds right now to leave a 5-star review. Each review directly helps us reach more people who can benefit from these incredible conversations. And if you're looking to buy a hotel or invest in one of our deals, or even if you just want to say, hey, you can send us an email at hello@thehuntforincredible.com. We'd love to hear from you. Now back to the show. So what was your approach to finding somebody who had enough experience that you were able to align incentives and drive your vision forward?
So basically, what I did was figured out what my strong suits and my skill sets were and what I wanted to spend my time doing, and then finding the person that was the opposite of that to help me fill in the gaps. Because you know what they say, like you could spend time being a jack of all trades, but like the person that gets paid the most or that's the most famous or valuable is the person that has that one skill or expertise that they're the best at. I mean, like Michael Jordan, he's not the best basketball player ever because he was like really good at like 20 different things. It was because he was the best at one thing. You know, it's just like once you realize that like no one really knows what they're doing, but they always rely on a team to be able to come together and run like something bigger than themselves. Like Elon Musk, like he doesn't do everything to run a $1 billion company. He has a team and people that do it for him. So once you find the complements to your weaknesses, that's when you become really strong.
Yeah, I have a friend who is on track to build a $1 billion company. He's actually aiming to build $1 trillion company by the time he dies, and then he's going to give all of it away, which is a pretty cool thesis. But his mentor is a billionaire, and he said his breakthrough moment was having a conversation with his mentor, and his mentor said, "You're good at a lot of things, but you're not great at anything, and you need to pare down what you're doing and get more laser focused, and then find the partnerships of other people who are laser focused in those fields." And he opted to scaling a self-storage portfolio, but they do ground up developments and all sorts of really cool stuff. But that's something that I've been spending a lot of time meditating on as well, because in the beginning as an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many hats that you get pretty good at a lot of things. And then scaling up to that next phase is, what am I uniquely gifted at? Like what's the combination of skills that I have that I'm better than everybody else in the world at? And then how do I find the other people who are the best in the world at their things to subsidize the things that I'm not good at? So what were your list of things that were your specific skills, and then the skills that you were looking for in someone else?
I would say what I have found myself to be fall into that I'm good at is making good relationships. So networking, connecting with people, capital raising just through opportunities because I just talk to a lot of people and I feel like I'm genuine. So there's a trust that gets built there. And then what I found, and you know, if you want to get into the details of acquisition side of things, like talking to brokers, finding good deals, but where I knew that I fell short was and didn't have enough experience was like underwriting the financial side of things, maybe specific deal structures that I wasn't familiar with because people that have done deals before can understand there's different ways to make a deal happen to get, you know, the buyer what they want and the seller what they want at the same time. So it's just a lack of experience there. So I definitely was looking to hire out or partner with someone that had more experience on the technical deal side of projections, deep underwriting, and like deal structure.
And how did you set about finding somebody and then selling them on your vision too? Because obviously, if you find someone who has experience already buying businesses, then what do they need you for? Right. So, like, how did you leverage your value add and then create that alignment?
Yeah, I would say it takes a lot of time and planting seeds. Like when I started the journey, I was probably introducing myself and talking to 3 to 5 new people a week on the phone, but 20 to 30 minutes at a time, kind of telling everyone what I did, asking what they did, seeing where we could help each other. And my business partner that ended up finding was just kind of it kind of just kind of fell into place. We had 4 to 5 conversations before really just it clicked and was like, hey, you actually have the experience that I'm looking for, and vice versa. And I would say to answer your question of like, why would they partner with me is because I think they see the vision, they see the drive, and they see kind of the motivation of where I'm going, and they're willing to put their chips in that because it's basically, you know, how that saying is like you hire for the intrinsic skills and you can teach like hard skills. So you want someone with the drive and the motivation to do something and you want the passion. And then if they have lacking skills as far as like technical skills, like underwriting, whatever, you can always teach that. So I think that's what that partner was looking for in me and saying like, hey, this guy is really motivated. He's consistent over a long time and he's going somewhere. I'm willing to put a few chips on the table to see where it goes.
Nice. So you found someone who compensated your skills, and then you said, all right, now I'm going to go tackle a deal, the first deal. Did you tackle the deal while you were also spinning up this training program, or did you focus on the training program to find the right operators and then you focus on the deal?
So the way we structured it was we built out the framework for the program. We found the veteran and then we were putting him through the training program. And I would say about, you know, midway through, we kind of knew, okay, this guy has what it takes to be a business operator. And then we put a lot of time into looking for deals at that point.
Okay. What did building out that program and marketing the program look like?
So we basically said, okay, to be a successful business operator, these are the things that you're going to run into. These are the skills that you need. Okay, now we need to teach these skills and make sure this person is competent in those. So here are the different phases, the landmarks, and the hard and soft skills that we need to teach. And based off of that, we're like, okay, this is how long it's going to take. Roughly for us, 4 months. And that's meeting every single week and doing a different lesson and doing homework and stuff like that. And we say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to record some things, pre-record some things, see how it works, see if that person gets the idea, grasps the concept. And if not, then we need to go back to the drawing board and rework it. And we kind of just did that for the majority of the course. And then for the rest of it was just a lot of mindset stuff that we would just get on one-on-one Zoom calls with and just kind of coach or talk through. And then once we felt confident enough that that person had grasp enough of those skills, we're like, okay, this person's on the journey to really becoming a business operator owner. So we're gonna also put more time into like going out and looking for deals that complement their skill sets.
Was this a paid program or was it more of a filtering process that you were offering for free and then you'd select somebody at the end?
No, it was for free. I mean, I don't believe in charging for the program because part of why I started Vets and Valor because I wanted to help people go through that transition more efficiently and healthier than I went through it. So I didn't want to have to charge for it. And the right person will pay for the time that you put in them in dividends. So I didn't think that it was right to charge for it. And the right person fell in place, and here we are. We bought a business, and it's going great. So I mean, yeah, the cards will fall where they're supposed to. You just have to believe and put the effort.
That's awesome. How did you market the program?
I started out with just joining random Facebook groups and veteran Facebook groups. I said, hey, if you're a veteran getting out, I can help you transition. I can help if you want to be an entrepreneur and create a life for yourself that resembles the culture and brotherhood and the freedom that you had in the military. Then that's what we're doing. And we did a couple webinars, had a group of people, and then from there we got a couple of resumes and applications and filtered out people from there. And then like the people that were really driven kind of they sifted the way to the top.
Nice. That's awesome, man. So you brought somebody through the program. You said, this is the person. Now I'm going to start looking for businesses. What was your process to identifying a business that made sense?
The most important thing for the model that we do is location. Wherever the veteran is, if they are planted in that city or whatever, then obviously they have a family, they're settled in, then we'll look for a business in that location. And then after that, it is one, we have certain numbers as far as like deal size for what we need for our return on time and investment, and then skill sets to what the veteran is one good at, and then looking for things that complement what they're bad at. So for example, the veteran that we found, really strong sales and leadership background. He was in corporate medical sales, and he was at the President's Club, top of the company for 10 plus years. So we know he had a strong sales background, but he wasn't as strong in operations. So we looked for something that had more of an operationally sound team. So that would kind of balance out. Like we said earlier, even in business acquisition, you're making sure you have the full picture and team when you close on something. So you just kind of look for things that complement what the other person is really good at.
I'm seeing a theme here, Calvin. The theme of understanding strengths and weaknesses and then cobbling the team and the business together. So what was your buy box in terms of like the business and the return profile that you needed, considering the strength of the person you were bringing on board, the operator?
So based on this person, we were like, okay, this person can probably handle a $5 million business. And for us and my business partner to be worth it, we need to be making at least six figures each after the operator is paid, after all the expenses, everything are paid. And we kind of went from there looking at deals based off of that.
Okay. So $5 million business. And where were you looking? Biz buy sell, a bunch of other places. What did that look like?
Yeah. So we started off with biz buy sell, just looking at every business in the area we were looking for. Once we went through that, we just kind of email blasted every broker in the state asking for what listings. And then after that, we went into Facebook groups and asking for referrals. And we were doing all of that at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay. And this deal came through Facebook, right?
Yeah, it was actually a Facebook post we found this deal through, which is crazy.
Nice.
After the hundreds of deals that we looked through, all the brokers that we talked to, the conversations, it ended up being through a Facebook post.
What was that post? Was it like a personal post or was it a post to a forum or something?
No, yeah, it wasn't even a private group. It was the veteran that we had trained in the local city that he lived in. He knew the owner of this business, and he posted saying that he was looking to sell his business, and he just happened to see it. And it is initially something we were going to look at or we would be in the market for, but we took a stab at it anyway, and it ended up working out. So yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome, dude. That's amazing. So you found a distillery and I'm assuming like the operation was dialed in. It just wasn't making the top line sales that you were looking for. And that's where it made sense to have your operator that you were bringing on board that was heavy in sales. Is that right? The balance?
Yeah, I mean, there's more context to that. I mean, so the previous owner, he was doing some other, I guess, shady things and wasn't making his payments to the bank. So the bank had foreclosed on the distillery, but it was doing fine. He just chose not to make payments, and he was funneling money in other places. So the operations team and the distillers were doing great. It needed more sale. It needed a sales injection because they didn't have a sales team or anything. And that's where like, okay, hey, this guy's skill set is going to be perfect for this. So yeah, a few more details in there, but yeah, basically we were looking for something like, hey, there's a few things that we can do here to really ramp out, get in the local market and up the sales. So that's why we thought it was perfect.
Okay. And this distillery, is it a branded distillery or do they like white label other products or something?
So we can do both. So we have our own brand. So we're called Valor Peak Distillery, and we make spirit. We distill and make spirits here, but also we have a bottling arm of the company to where we do contract distilling. So if you decide, hey, I want my own whiskey brand, you apply for your wholesale license and you say, hey, I want this type of whiskey, I want this label, I want this flavor, this age, whatever. We find it for you, we make it for you, we label it and bottle it and send it to you to sell. So we can do that with anyone that has proper licensing.
Nice. How do you evaluate a business within a specific market? What's your process? So like it's straightforward to say, okay, the company makes X, so it's valued at Y, and we are projecting we can raise its value to Z. But in terms of the landscape and how industries are constantly shifting, especially right now with how much change is coming along with AI and everything else, how do you assess the viability of a business in a specific market?
Yeah. Well, one thing we look at the industry as a whole. So, like the liquor industry, how did it do in the dot-com bubble? How did it do in 2008? How did it do in COVID? So, looking at the major markers of like what makes a industry or business thrive, and the liquor industry is kind of like real estate. It has its ups and downs. And then in a more like micro market, we looked at, okay, where is this? What the city is located in? What is the history of the city and different liquor businesses? And where is the local demographics going? And like, what are they looking for? And then seeing like, okay, this is the trends. This state or the city is known for this. This is the working demographic. So you can assume based off of trends, okay, it's going to continue to grow, or it's kind of like in a trough, and it's going to like be kind of more stabilized for a while.
And with this business specifically, do you see the biggest return coming from your own branded liquor, or is it in the bottling service?
So to start off right now, it's going to be about 60% on wholesale and retail, and then the rest is going to be from the bottling services.
Gotcha. Okay. And the operator that you brought in is going to do sales on both sides?
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
Because it's kind
Very
of like we can hand in hand upsell. So it's like we go to a local restaurant owner that owns a few restaurants that's pretty successful and said, hey, here's our flagship 6 different types of liquor. We want you to try them. If you like them, even if you want to take the next step further, we could say, hey, we can, since your business is so successful and you have your own restaurant brand name, we can make your own label and whiskey for you. If you wanted to have X restaurant name whiskey, we can make that happen. So the sales can kind of like, you can kind of upsell, or it goes hand in hand.
That's awesome. What were the details of that acquisition? What'd you buy it for? What's the return? How did you raise the capital?
So the details were we bought it out of foreclosure, basically from a bank. We bought the whole distillery, all the stills, and we bought like 100 plus barrels of spirits for $260,000, which was a really good deal because the market value of all this equipment was close to 2 million. So if you wanted to start your own distillery with nothing, it would cost about $2 million to get this operation up and going. We bought it for 260. Obviously, injected more capital because we had to rebrand. We have to spend time getting new licenses and having the team work to produce things before we open it. So
Okay. So you bought it for 260. What are you putting into it?
so we did a total raise of $700,000. We haven't put all that into the business. There's stuff that we just have for capex and reserves. But yeah, I would say we probably spent another 200 grand thus far getting things up and running.
Okay. So you're at about a 450K. You're storing 250K. Is that 250K a buffer, or is that you're anticipating allocating that into something down the road?
There's a little bit of both. So based off of the relationships we've made in this local town, there's another couple other businesses that we could potentially scoop up. So part of that money we've kind of like set aside just in case we need to do another acquisition that would complement the distillery. But yeah, some of it's for like, reserves and improvements and working capital. But yeah, there's definitely a large chunk of it that there's a deal or two that could come to our table here later in the year. So we're just kind of setting aside for that.
Okay. So you mentioned that you and your partner will both, the goal is to receive six figures each. Was that the primary return profile you were looking for, or did you also have like an internal rate of return or annualized return for the investors that you raised capital from?
Yeah, well, to answer that question, when I started this and I started that, I was like, okay, if we're going to do this and it's going to be worth our time, yeah, at least six figures per person. But then when we brought in capital and investors, we decided, okay, here's the projections, here's what kind of return that we think we can do based off of the sales that we plan on doing.
Okay. And what was that projected return profile?
So as far as a percentage return over yearly, it's close to 30%.
Nice.
Yes. I mean, and it's not an impossible goal at all, but it is a stretch and it's going to take hard work to get there. But yeah, that is part of the risk capital that the investors put in to say, hey, you're buying a distillery. It's been shut down for a couple months because it went through foreclosure, but there is risk that you're going to have to reopen and you're going to have to ramp sales up again. So that's part of why the return is so high and what we're willing to give away as far as profit shares, because we trust that we can get those numbers.
Gotcha. So if 30% is the stretch goal, what would you say is the range? Like conservatively hitting 15%, but stretching for 30, or is that conservative or bottom number lower?
Yeah, I would say the bottom number. I mean, we have high expectations. I would say, 20% below would be pretty bottom. I mean, we have a pretty in-depth, detailed sales plan of how we're going to get there.
Okay. And I'm assuming this is a lease, right? You're not purchasing the real estate with it.
Correct.
What were those lease terms?
So we signed a 7-year lease, and yeah, 7-year lease was a personally guaranteed lease. So we definitely have our chips on the table to make sure it pays off. Yeah, we pay a base rent and then some percentage of the utilities. I don't know off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Dude, that's awesome. The small business space is so interesting and attractive to me because it's so much less capital intensive than real estate. Like I was talking to a mentor of mine, his background, he started acquiring oil change shops. So like Quick Car, Jiffy Lube and things like that. And he was acquiring the business and the real estate. And I was actually just talking to him on the phone yesterday and he's pivoting to nothing bundt cakes. So he has 25 locations and they're going to roll it up and then sell it to private equity. Uh, he was going on. He was like, dude, I started off in commercial real estate and he ended up selling, I want to say like 25 of his oil change shops. I think something like he sold 20 of them and then 10 of them he kept the real estate on. So he's collecting a check, made a significant amount of money. And now he's focusing on just scaling businesses. And he was like, dude, you can scale small businesses so much faster than real estate because it's so much less capital intensive. You have the same systems that are applied. So I'm trying to keep my blinders on with commercial real estate, but I definitely see small business acquisitions in my future, 100%. I don't know when it's going to come up, but it's 100% there for me.
Yeah, I mean, real estate is historically the best wealth generator, but at the end of the day, there is always a cap on real estate. You can only raise rents to so much. You can only charge for so much for a storage unit. But for business, there's no cap to how many sales you do. You add on as you grow, you add on more people, therefore more sales, and there's no cap to what your potential is.
Yeah. What does the leverage look like? So you bought it for 260. How much did you have to put down? What type of financing did you get?
Cash. We don't have any debt. We bought everything
Okay.
cash. So the only like expenses we have is obviously the lease and the overhead and our payroll.
That's awesome. So you're able to move quickly with it. What revenue are you anticipating generating within the first couple of years?
First 12 months, we want to do 2.1 million. And then we are projecting to grow 10% each year after that.
Okay. And what's the margin on that?
Our margins are about, it range from 30 to 40%, depending on the type of spirit that we're producing. But yeah, it averages to like around 35%.
Okay. Nice. And you don't have any debt service on it since you bought it cash.
Yeah. So
And
basically,
then,
what I would consider my debt service is making sure our investors' returns are paid first. They don't have
right.
a quote unquote preferred return in this deal, but the profit share is like me saying, hey, this number that we projected to pay out is the debt that I'm going to take on, and like have that kind of sense of responsibility of like how important it is to pay that back.
Right. Did you all syndicate for this, or was it a small enough number of investors that you didn't have to?
Yeah, it was a small group. With definitely less than 10 people. So yeah,
So you didn't syndicate, or you did?
no, it's
Gotcha.
more. It's
Gotcha. Gotcha. Man, that's exciting. Okay, so you got this one locked in, and right before we started recording, you were telling me that you're already analyzing to aggressively acquire another one. What does this next phase of acquisitions look like for you?
Yeah, so the first one is going through the process, figuring out how everything works. The second one is how do we do it quicker and more efficiently. So I've been fortunate enough through my relationships to be brought a deal that we think may be the next acquisition. So we have a call to underwrite and see if that's the right fit for us, and then we will then market that position to find the right person to fill that position and run that company.
Gotcha. Are you running these programs to find operators in tandem, or are you doing it back and forth? So like you ran the program, found the operator, and then found the business. It sounds like this time you found the business before finding the operator. Is this program constantly running, or is it you toggle back and forth between acquisitions and running the program to find the operators?
The goal to scale is to be able to have the program written out and find the veteran or operator beforehand and then find the business for them. This one that we're looking at just happenstance. We know the owner and he's looking to sell and get out. So, and we're going to look at it and make sure it's good business. It just happened to have that way. But once we do this at scale, it's going to be veteran first going through the training program and then finding the business after.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's exciting, man. So are you, it sounds like you're not committed to any one business type. It's just depends on the business, and then you're going to put the operators on there and just do the asset management essentially. Is that correct?
For the most part, the business plan initially that we set out was to do like within the bounds of what is going to be a good investment for investors' money. Like we want recession resistant. We want to expect that it's going to be around for the next 15, 20 years. So nothing that's technology or AI is going to replace. So we were really looking at more of the blue collar trade type businesses. And I think this one was a one off because our operator was already so passionate about the whiskey industry because he had already been in a bunch of whiskey clubs, and that's the reason why he was so motivated, because it was something that aligned with his passion. So I think we'll find the right person to align those same passions with businesses that are more of like a traditional type investment. Because I think going forward, we want like, something that we can just implement the operators team and skills to really scale right away. So yeah, I think we'll revert back to the more blue collar trade type businesses.
Nice. That's awesome. When are you projecting you're going to hit 100 million?
I have no idea. So the goal for me that I have right now is by the time I turn 30, I want to be netting 1 million a year. So we need to buy. So if we're making six figures to or 100,000 to 200,000 a deal, then we probably need to buy, 4 to 6 really good businesses to get us across that million each net number in the next 4 to 5 years. So it's pretty aggressive. And then after that, I'm probably going to switch. We're proving the concept with these first few deals, and then I'm going to move to a fund model, like a private equity model, and just raise for a fund and then just kind of do it at scale to get there.
Nice. Well, I'll have you back on along the journey so we can keep track of it, man.
Yeah, of course.
Calvin, we always wrap up the show. We with asking a question. We believe that questions are the answer. So what question do you believe people need to ask themselves or somebody else in order to be successful in the space?
What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? If you are listening right now and you want financial freedom, or you want to take that life-changing decision, and you do it and it either works out or it doesn't, what's the worst that could happen? If everything that you have done in your life up to this point, if you're listening, you've made it through. So what's to say that you wouldn't make it through the next?
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Calvin, where can people find you?
So Instagram and Facebook, just Calvin Blankenship on both, or you can go to my website, www.vetsandvalor.com.
Awesome. Calvin, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.